Okay, so we'll start with the meditation like we usually do. So, yeah, have your playlist handy. I'll talk a little bit and then we'll start. So, the first thing is get settled in your seat. Find a comfortable seated position, any seat that allows you to sit with a straight spine. Your hands can be anywhere in your lap, on your legs, whatever works for you, as long as it's not distracting you. And so sit up straight, close your eyes, settle into your seat. Just feel your body sitting in your chair or on the floor. Feel the weight of your bones inside your body. Feel your connection to the ground, to the earth. So let's start. Let's roll the shoulders up to the ears and back down again, relaxing the shoulders. Letting go of any tension you might be feeling in the shoulders, just relaxing fully. Let's take a deep inhale. As you exhale, just imagine a wave of relaxation washing down your body, removing all stress, all tension from your body. Let's do that one more time, inhaling deeply. And as you exhale, just let all that stress go, let all the tension go, relaxing fully. Okay, we'll start with a heart chakra meditation once again. So as we're sitting here, imagine on each exhale that you're blowing love and warmth into your heart. So visualize that you're cupping your heart in your hands in front of your chest. And as you exhale, imagine you're just gently blowing warmth and love and compassion into your heart. And as you inhale, breathe in the love that's all around us. And as you exhale, exhale that love into your heart. So if you'd like to use music, go ahead and hit play now. And we'll all come back in a couple minutes. And whenever you're ready, whenever you feel like it, start bringing your attention back into your body. Okay, so now that we've had a chance to meditate, calm our minds, reconnect, um, today I thought I would talk about some of the rather extraordinary events we've been witnessing the last couple days, particularly with what's happening in our nation's capital right now. And so in times like these, it's natural and healthy to have a strong emotional response when crazy things are happening, when disturbing things are happening. Regardless of your political views, it's perfectly natural and perfectly healthy, as I said, to have a strong emotional response to what's happening right now. And and that's healthy and normal, as I said. When it can become having a strong emotional response can start to become unhealthy when we hold on to it, when we don't allow the emotions to freely flow through us and process them fully. So sometimes the brain, sometimes the mind gets caught up in a certain emotion and keeps rehashing it over and over again in our brains. We become stuck in a particular emotion. And I'm sure you've all experienced this when you just can't stop thinking about something that's really bothering you. It might start interfering with your sleep, it might start interfering with your ability to work, it might become really irritable with your family or loved ones. So these are all things that happen when we become stuck in an emotion, when we're holding on to it and not letting it process freely and naturally as it normally does. And when this happens, um, then there are various tools available that we can use to get our minds unstuck from an emotion. And one particularly useful tool that I like is from the Yoga Sutras. So this is my current favorite translation of the Yoga Sutras. It's called The Secret Power of Yoga by Nishala Joy Devi. I heard about this from my yoga teacher training, and it's an absolutely wonderful translation of the Yoga Sutras. It's one of the few translations available that's written by a woman. And she talks about this in the book, how this is a heart-centered translation of the Yoga Sutras, as opposed to the usual mind-dominated translations that you often come across. And within the Yoga Sutras, there's a section called the four locks and the four keys. And this is Sutra 133, if you'd like to look it up on your own. And it says, to preserve openness of heart and calmness of mind, nurture these attitudes: kindness to those who are happy, compassion for those who are less fortunate, honor for those who embody noble qualities, and this is the most relevant for our discussion tonight: equanimity to those whose actions oppose our values. So this is a really powerful tool for interacting with the world and not getting caught up in your emotions. Reacting with equanimity to those whose actions oppose our values. And so you might think that that's easier said than done, right? I think it's easy to think that um, getting wrapped up in our emotion is a justified logical response when something disturbing is happening. We might think that we have no other choice but to become really emotional and stay really emotional and keep reliving those emotions in our mind. That it can often feel like that's the only thing we can do. But we do have a choice where we can choose to just feel our emotions and process them and let them move through us, without getting hung up on them. Because when we hold on to emotions, when we hold on to anger in our hearts, when we hold on to that, it closes off our heart. When we hold on to a negative emotion like anger, then we're no longer able to feel our connection to the universe. We're no longer able to feel our place in the world. We're no longer able to feel the love that's all around us. So that's why I like to talk a lot about opening the heart and reestablishing our connection to the universe. And that is one way to deal with strong emotions that we're having trouble letting go of. There's a couple more passages that she talks about that I'd like to refer to. We suffer the most when we hold hate within our hearts for too long. It erodes the very fiber of our love, and it binds us to the person we are condemning. So that's another interesting point. When we hold on to anger, when we hold on to hatred, we cause ourselves to feel pain, we cause our physical pain. There's plenty of studies, plenty of research showing that strong negative emotions, particularly stress and anger, cause negative effects on our health, cause blood pressure to spike, cause stress hormones to spike, cortisol levels to spike, and causes inflammation in the body. So when we hold on to anger, when we hold on to hate, we're physically hurting ourselves. We're physically and emotionally hurting ourselves. And we're giving those people that we're angry at, we're giving them the power to hurt us. So by holding on to anger at another person, we give that person the power to hurt us. So that should be motivation to let go of anger, like to let go of hatred, instead open our hearts again and feel our place in the universe, feel our connection in the universe. And so that's how we can react mindfully when crazy things are happening around us. We can meet anger in the world. We can meet anger and hostile actions from other people. We can meet that with equanimity instead of responding with hate, responding with anger. And that doesn't mean to say that those actions aren't wrong. And certainly when people break the law, they should be held accountable. When people hurt other people, they should be held responsible for their actions. But by us holding on to anger, that has no effect on bringing those other people to justice. Your anger may be beneficial in the short term if it motivates you to, say, contact your congressman or write a letter to a representative or take to the streets and peacefully protest. So a little bit of anger can be good to motivate you to take actions like that. But again, holding on to that anger, if you find yourself just consumed in hatred or anger for a long period of time, that's when it's a good idea to stop and examine that anger and try to see how you can let go of it, because it's not serving you or anyone it's not doing you or anyone any good to hold on to anger in your heart and cause yourself pain. So does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that? I think you'll need to unmute yourself because I muted you during the meditation. All right. So any questions about that? Does that make sense? Yeah, perfect sense, no questions.
Notes.
Okay, great.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of hoping people would have questions. So, because it seems easy, right, in principle, to just let go of anger, but it's harder in practice. I'm sure. I've experienced that myself. I'm sure we all had problems letting go of anger when something, especially like with what's going on in our country today. And yesterday's events with the storming of the Capitol, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg with all of the craziness we've been experiencing, especially since COVID started, even the last several years. There's just been crazy, infuriating things happening in the world. And it can seem natural to react with a lot of hate and anger, but holding on to that hate and anger does us no good. It only causes us pain. So,
So a
sure.
question popped up.
Mm-hmm.
So with what has been happening, the recent event, so people that might talk about it, they themselves are angry and sort of hateful towards those people that they don't know. And so it comes up in a casual conversation. So I find that I tend to, just from my own spiritual practice, I don't hate those people, and I don't have any anger towards them. Right? I'm just observing,
Mm-hmm.
and if I had a feeling for them, it would be I try really hard to have compassion for them, that they are doing what they're doing because there's something inside of them that caused them to do that, right? So that's sort of the compassion I have for them. So my question would be, what would you say to people who are responding to it with anger and with hatred?
Right.
Like how, they would say something, and that's happened to me, and I don't know what to say.
Right. So you're saying just when you're in a conversation with someone and
Yeah.
they're getting very
Yeah.
angry, and
Yeah.
that's a good question. Yeah, I
Right.
think
Because it does come up for all of us, I think, right? People that
right.
uniformly will be angry and hateful towards certain events. And it doesn't have to be yesterday's event, it could be anything, right?
Right.
But yet we are practicing, and we are finding our own spirituality. And so we are really trying really hard to not have anger and hate in our in our way of being, right? So how do we have a conversation with people like that? Or do we just listen and don't say anything?
Right. Well,
That's my question.
yeah, no, that's a very good question. Yeah, because some people are so caught up in hate and anger that it's they don't want to let go of it, right? Some people
Right.
they're so, whether they're so just used to existing in that emotion that the brain kind of gets stuck there, or I mean, there's a variety of reasons why people can get hung up in hate or negative emotions. And so I think, well, for one, we have to let go of the idea of trying to change anyone, right? There's no way we can change another person.
Right.
But if it's someone, if it's a friend or a loved one that you care about, I think you could start talking to them using some of the things that I just talked about, like asking them, well, asking them if they, well, it depends on the person how you want to approach it, because I mean, you could say some of the things that I said, that by holding on to that anger, you're only hurting yourself, and it's not doing any good, right?
That's why I took notes when you were,
Yeah, you can try to approach it from that angle, that
right.
it's for their own benefit to try to let go of that anger, try to process it. But I think a lot of people have so much repressed pain and anger that's what's coming up, and then I mean, that's a much deeper problem to try to address. And so, yeah, if it's a friend or a family member, you can encourage them to look into things like meditation and yoga. Those are great ways to try to access and process repressed emotion. And depending on the person, I think a lot of people these days have repressed, pent up trauma and uh, from a lot of negative things happening in their lives. So I think
Hmm.
someone is particularly angry all the time, it might be a good idea for them to explore some counseling, talk to
Hmm.
a professional who can help them try to understand the root of that suffering and try to
Hmm.
process it.
Right, right. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think what was evidence yesterday was um, in society in general, I think people have a yearning to belong to something. And
Hmm.
I think people who aren't close to friends or family, and I think there's lots of people like that, that it was a way for them to belong to something.
Yeah.
Because I know that all those people that were there, I'm willing to guess that they didn't all have the same belief system or value system, but by showing up, it showed that they belong to something, like
Hmm.
they were looking for something to belong to. And it was pretty much sort of an open forum, right? It didn't cost anything to show up. You
Hmm.
didn't have to show a card that you were a member of anything, right? You could just, it was easy to show up. So I think there are a lot of people that are looking to belong to something,
Definitely.
which is, yeah, right. There's a lot of lonely people out there.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I've talked about a little bit, how
Mhm.
we go through, we spend so much of our lives, or so frequently in our lives, we have to repress emotions. We can't express ourselves, and we close off our hearts. And when by closing off our heart, that's when we start to feel lonely. I mean,
Mhm.
that's when we start looking for external things to be a part of
Mhm.
instead of feeling that love within us, instead of feeling our connection to the universe. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, all those people who are involved in storming, I mean, anyone who commits violence, it's because they're suffering. It's because
Mhm.
their heart is
Mhm.
closed off and they can't feel
Yeah.
love.
Well, it's like an outlet for them, right?
Yeah,
It's their expression.
right. Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense of belonging, like you said. Hmm. Okay, great. So let's do another meditation.
Okay.
So get your music ready if you'd like to use music. And so this time, speaking of pain and suffering in the world, this time as we meditate, when we inhale, let's breathe in love from the universe into ourselves. And then as we exhale, let's just beam that love out into the world so that we can do our little part to bring some love and healing to the world. So if you'd like to use music, go ahead and hit play. Go ahead and hit play now. We'll all come back in a few minutes. And as you're ready, slowly start to bring your awareness back into your body. We had someone else join us. Hello, Molly. Thanks for joining us. It's a small class tonight. There's only one other person present. We were talking in the first half. About how to react mindfully when the world is going crazy. So how to stay mindful, stay centered while these crazy, wild events are taking place in the world. And I talked about one particular tool from the Yoga Sutras, which is um, trying to face actions like these with equanimity. So there's a saying in there: to preserve openness of heart and calmness of mind, cultivate the attitude of equanimity towards those whose actions oppose our values. And so we talked about some ways of uh, dealing with that. And so I'd like to, in the second half of tonight's class, I'd like to go a little bit deeper into that idea, because it might seem that when things like this are happening, when the world is getting this crazy, that there's no other possible response but to be just completely furious or completely despondent and hopeless. Because it can just seem like the world is suffering, the world is going in the wrong direction, and there's nothing we can do about it. It just seems like everything is going wrong right now. And so when we're faced with that, when we're faced with this total despondency or uncontrollable anger, it can be helpful to kind of go deeper into some of these uh, Eastern philosophies, if you will. So in particular, some of the worldviews underlying Eastern philosophies, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, provide a sort of a backdrop or a context in which we can react mindfully to anything that's going on in the world. And one of my particularly favorite worldviews, or kind of models for existence, if you will, comes from Hinduism and from certain from Vedanta. And this is the idea that the world as we know it, that the physical world, the physical universe, is one giant play or drama or movie in which God, or the universal consciousness, or whatever term you want to use for the all encompassing universe. So all of the parts are played by God. So the world is one giant drama, one giant play, where all of us, all the actors, are all played by God, all played by the universal consciousness. And the reason this happens is because so God, or the universal consciousness, the true nature of reality is oneness, is bliss, is completeness, just pure existence and being and peace. But imagine for a moment, so imagine you are the universal consciousness and you're existing in unfettered bliss, just nothing but pure ecstasy, pure joy. So you are one with the universe, you are the universe, and all you feel is pure joy, pure ecstasy, pure bliss. So think about how that would happen as time went on. So you can imagine, say, the first eternity, you're existing in pure bliss. That's probably pretty cool, pretty great, just existing in bliss. But as time goes on, if you think about that forever, for eternity, if we exist in bliss forever, if we never know anything else besides bliss, then it ceases to feel like bliss. If we have no other experiences against which to compare it, then bliss, then joy or ecstasy just starts to feel flat, starts to feel neutral. If all there is bliss, if all there is joy, it ceases to have any meaning. It just becomes isness. Then there's just flat being. So the idea is that the universe or God creates the physical world in order to have experiences, in order to feel something besides bliss, and then therefore be able to come back to bliss. And in order for this play to work, then God or the universal consciousness has to forget that. So in order for us to have this experience, we have to truly forget that we are the universe, that we are connected to everything. In order to feel anything other than pure joy, we have to really forget that we are joy. And that's what happens when we come into this world. That's what happens when we incarnate in this world. We forget that we are the universe, and we become convinced that we are this isolated being existing in this sack of bones and meat and water, and with a brain and with a consciousness encased in our little head. And we forget that we are everything. We forget that we are complete. We forget that we are made of love, because that's the whole point of existence. And so the whole reason for living, the whole reason for existence, is to have that experience of separateness, so that we can once again feel separateness. And so if you really believe that worldview, if you can adopt that worldview, it takes a lot of pressure off the events of the world, because all the pain out there in the world, all the drama, everything that we're witnessing now is just part of the game, part of the play of existence. And we only have to keep experiencing the pain if we choose to. So when we reach the point where we're tired of the game, when we're tired of the drama, that's when we start exploring things like spirituality or meditation. When we've reached the point where we no longer want to feel isolated and suffer all the time, that's when we start feeling drawn to spirituality, drawn to exploring other worldviews, drawn to studies that reconnect us, that help us remember that we are already one, we are already connected to the universe. So I'd like to open up for questions now. So does that make sense to everyone? This idea that if we choose to adopt these other worldviews, it can help us deal with the suffering that we experience in everyday life. Does that concept make sense?
So this is Molly. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I came in kind of late because I was sort of looking for it, but
Sorry, yeah,
yes.
we have a lot of technical problems, so no apology necessary. We apologize for that.
So I see that it says recording. So is it going to be on Facebook later for?
Yes, we'll post the whole video on Facebook so you can watch.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I heard what you said and I understand it, and it does make sense, but it's hard to, when you're watching things happening in real time, and it's difficult to watch, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have people pointing the finger at each other, and it's just it's difficult.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we talked about this a little bit in the first half.
Mm.
And so yeah, that's really tough, when it's easy to get caught up in all of the emotion that's going on. It's easy to get caught up in all the anger and hatred and all the suffering. And so one way to address that is first of all, we can never fight our emotions, right? It doesn't help at all to try to resist any emotion that we're feeling. So when we feel a strong emotion rise up within us, um, don't try to resist it. Just experience it fully and really try to dive into it. Right? If you're suffering, if something's making you feel uncomfortable or angry or sad or hurt, it can help to really try to examine that emotion. So don't hide from it, but try, when we fully examine an emotion, really sit with it and allow it to really, when we give all of our consciousness to an emotion, don't fight it, just allow ourselves to fully feel an emotion, feel it throughout your whole body, then we can start to understand what's causing the pain, if that makes sense. So um, when we, so if we're feeling a lot of anger, we can examine that anger and try to figure out exactly what's causing it, right? Why are we feeling this angry? What is happening specifically that's eliciting this anger in us?
It's difficult to do when you like are feeling anger on and off for the last 4 years. It's hard to turn it off, and especially after yesterday, hard to turn
Right.
it off.
Yes, and that's totally understandable. And sometimes we become so habitually used to these emotions, especially for the last 4 years. Our brains spend so much time in anger that
Yes.
it's hard to break out of those into something else. So when when we become when the brain gets trapped in anger like this, that's when we have to turn to more kind of stronger tools to break out of it. So meditation is a great way.
Mhm.
Yoga, things like that, some exercise,
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
to move the body and allow the emotion to process through. Walking out in nature can
Mhm.
be really extremely helpful, especially if you can um, be by yourself, alone, out in untamed nature, where you feel nothing but nature. If we can get away from all the sounds and signs of humanity, that's a great way to kind of unplug from the all of the emotion that's just kind of dumped on us from the world all the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and it is hard. It's really hard, and I understand. But if you want to start changing, you have the power to start changing how you respond. It takes time and practice and utilizing all the tools at your disposal to try to start training the brain into other ways of viewing the situation. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's, yes.
But it's still hard to break out of it.
It yes. Yes, it's hard when you kinda are bombarded with that daily and,
Yeah.
but yes, I agree.
Mhm.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah. So I mean, it definitely is hard, but when I'm totally out of sorts, when I'm totally wrapped up in my mind, my most useful tool is to go alone in nature and sit in nature and meditate in silence and just feel the stillness of nature wash over me.
Mm,
For me in particular, that's extremely healing and soothing.
mhm,
So getting out in nature can help at least take the edge off, so that then the rest of your day you can try to remember what that feeling was like and try to hold on to that, if that makes
mhm,
sense.
mhm. Yes.
So yeah, and then also trying to seek out like-minded community, like people here, other people that want to try to react differently than just the gut reaction anger. So because
Right.
we're we're all deeply affected by the people around us and the kind of the thoughts and emotions around us.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm. So yeah, so any other questions, or does that help a little bit?
Oh, no, it helped a lot. I mean, I kind of know all that, but it's a matter of
Right.
practicing it. I
Um,
talk about it, but don't practice it. But and my like-minded people kind of are angry like I am. So,
That makes it hard. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, but hopeful. We're hopeful. So,
So it really comes down to a choice. We think that we always react automatically, but we always have a choice about how we choose to react. And so
mhm,
when we get tired, if you're tired of feeling angry all the time, you can have a choice to start to try to react differently. And there'll be times when you'll fail horribly and wind up getting angry, and that's fine. That's normal. Just it's all part of the process. And so,
mhm,
but if we want to start walking down a different path, um, there's no other. You just have to start making those decisions. Start trying to consciously choose to cultivate other emotions than
mhm,
just getting into the anger that's all around.
right.
But it's hard. It's a constant struggle.
Matt,
Yeah.
um, maybe you can repeat what you spoke about earlier before Molly joined about when we um, are angry and hold on to anger, that we are suffering the most. I think this might be good to discuss again.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So I talked about this earlier a little bit, but if you need more motivation to try to convince yourself to react differently, you can. One way to think about it is that when we hold on to anger, when we allow the mind to keep spinning through that anger and just keep dwelling in it, when we hold on to that anger, it closes off our hearts and just causes us to suffer more. And it causes
Mm,
physical illness in the body.
mm, mhm,
And and it's and it's tempting to feel that our anger is justified because wrongdoings are happening and those people need to be brought to justice. But in that moment, your anger has no effect on those people, right?
yes.
Your anger,
Yes.
punishing yourself with anger does nothing to bring those people to justice. So that can help
Mhm,
motivate you to try to let go of the anger. In fact, when we hold on to pain, when we hold on to hatred like that, it it allows those other people, it gives them the power to hurt us. When we hold on to anger for their actions, it gives them the power to cause us pain, if that makes sense.
mhm. Yeah. Sometimes you feel like you don't have control over, it's that lack of control.
Right.
But
So,
I mean, I've come to that point where I can't control what other people do or how other people feel, and it's taken a long. I mean, it's taken my life to figure that out within the last 6 months. So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, well, by being here and asking those questions, you're already making a change. You're already choosing to try to react differently. So,
Hmm.
and it's a process. It doesn't
Hmm.
happen overnight, but you're moving in the right direction.
Right.
You're
Right.
one step closer to happiness and completeness and feeling the love that's all around us. Because
Yeah.
yeah, there is love all around us all the time,
Hmm.
but the
Hmm.
is made of. It's just we forget because the world is always telling us otherwise.
Right.
Okay, so we're almost out of time, and I'd like to
Mhm.
conclude with one more meditation. So, oh yeah, Molly. So, um, I'm not able to play music over Zoom, so I usually send out a playlist ahead of time if
Hmm.
you'd like to have music. But music's it's totally optional. You can meditate in silence. That's fine too. But so in the future, we can work on trying to have music for you too. Um, but so yeah, so if you'd like to, so Helen, if you'd like to use music, get your playlist ready. And so for this final meditation, I think we'll come back and meditate on the heart again because the world needs lots of love right now. The more love we can bring into our own hearts, the more love we can bring into the world. So let's do the same visualization technique that we did for the last meditation. On each inhale, imagine you're breathing in love from the world all around you, just breathing that love into your heart, soaking it into your body on each inhale. And then on the exhale, imagine just beaming that love out to the world, out to the universe. So we're just gathering the love that's all around us into ourselves and then sharing it with the world, because that's what the world needs right now, I think, is just more love. So in our little meditation here, we can do our part to make the world a happier place. So if you have music, go ahead and hit play now. And if not, we'll all come back here in a few minutes. And whenever you're ready, begin to bring your awareness back into the body. You want to deepen your inhales. And deepen your exhales. So how was that meditation? Did that help calm yourself at all?
It was good.
Great. Glad to hear that.
So is this going to be weekly?
Yes, every Thursday at 5 o'clock, we will be on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I apologize for the technical difficulties at first. We were trying to broadcast on Facebook Live also, and it was all set up and working fine. And then 10 minutes before time to start, the microphone stopped working, and we couldn't figure out why. That's why we had to just move it to Zoom fully. Oh yeah. So we ask for your patience. This is new to all of us. We're still figuring all the bugs out, figuring the kinks out. But thank you for joining, Molly. Thank you also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Great. So we're over time, but if you have any other questions that you'd like to bring up, I'm happy to keep talking.
I just wanted to comment that one of our Grace Good Shepherd church members that lives in Costa Rica was trying to get on. So I will tell her about Facebook because she was kind of waiting. And then she sent an email, so I'll let her know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so moving forward, every Thursday, we're definitely going to keep having Zoom. We're trying to add Facebook also. But if you want to be able to ask questions, that can only happen through Zoom. We can't do that through Facebook. So if you want to continue interacting like this, then Zoom is the best way to keep going. But yeah, so good luck to both of you trying to maintain your sanity in these crazy times. And yeah, so wish you the best.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.